He opened TikTok that night without expecting anything unusual. But the moment the video loaded, his entire body froze. There she was, Chloe, laughing, posing, and casually rating every gift he had given her over the past 2 years. Cheap. Not aesthetic. 1 out of 10. Each word felt like a punch, amplified by thousands of strangers piling on in the comments. The video was spreading fast, turning his private memories into her public entertainment. He stared at the screen, heart sinking, realizing she wasn't just mocking the gifts. She was mocking him. And while the internet laughed, he typed a single sentence, calm, simple, but sharp enough to cut through the chaos. You deserve something better. He hit send, not knowing that those 4 words would ignite the storm that changed everything. Ethan met Chloe on his 3rd week at the marketing firm, during a campaign brainstorming session where she walked in late, iced coffee in hand, talking about analytics before she even sat down. She had this bold, contagious energy that filled the room, and it didn't take long for him to fall for that spark. Back then, she was just starting to experiment with short-form content, posting simple daily vlogs with barely 1,000 followers. Ethan didn't care much about social media, but he admired her excitement, the way her eyes lit up every time she talked about lighting, transitions, or trends. When she hit 15K followers, everything shifted. Suddenly, her phone was always recording, always pointed somewhere, always intruding. Moments that used to belong only to the 2 of them quietly became raw material for her next upload. If they cooked dinner together, she'd reposition the plates 3 times so it looked aesthetic. If they went on a walk, she'd stop every few minutes to film new angles for a trending audio. Even their conversations changed, often drifting toward what would perform well. Whenever they argued, she'd joke about turning it into content, and though she said it lightly, Ethan could sense a layer of truth beneath her laughter. He learned to live around the camera, trying not to ruin her shots, trying not to appear in the background of her drafts, trying to respect her world even when he didn't fully understand it. Meanwhile, he continued giving her thoughtful gifts, things he picked with care, things he saved for, things he believed she would treasure. He bought her a silver necklace, engraved with the coordinates of the cafe where they first met. He surprised her with a weekend trip to Palm Springs when she mentioned wanting a break from the city. He saved up for a designer handbag she had looked at once, briefly, in a storefront window. And every time he handed her something, he expected nothing in return except a smile. Chloe, on the other hand, gave gifts that felt more like afterthoughts than gestures. A novelty keychain. A mug from a corporate event. A candle that still had the clearance sticker on the bottom. Sometimes he wondered if she remembered the date at all, or if she was scrambling at the last minute, choosing the first object within reach. But he brushed it aside, telling himself that people show affection differently. What he didn't understand, what he refused to admit, was that Chloe had started to treat their relationship less like a partnership and more like a stage. The imbalance grew quietly, not loud enough to cause a fight, but strong enough to unsettle him in the late hours of the night. He tried to ignore the knot forming in his chest, believing that love could outweigh discomfort. Believing that she still valued the parts of their life that weren't filmed. Believing that she still valued him. But deep down, a small voice was already whispering that something was beginning to crack. The video appeared on his feed before he even knew she had posted it. At first, Ethan thought it was some harmless trend, another one of Chloe's playful storytime clips. But the moment he heard his own name followed by the words cheap boyfriend, something inside him tightened. Chloe sat in perfect lighting, hair curled, voice bright and bubbly as she held up the necklace he had worked extra hours to afford. 2 out of 10, she said with a laugh. Cute idea, but seriously, this metal feels like something from a flea market. The comments poured in instantly, filled with laughing emojis, and people mocking whoever this cheap guy was. Next, she showed the designer handbag, the one she told him she loved. 1 out of 10, she said, rolling her eyes. Nothing about this gives luxury. I don't care what the brand is, it looks basic. He felt his stomach drop. Then came the Palm Springs weekend trip, the one he booked because she had confessed she was burnt out. Oh my God, don't get me started, she said, widening her eyes dramatically. It was so boring. The place wasn't even aesthetic. I did not get a single good picture. Every sentence twisted the memory a little more, reshaping the moments he treasured into something cheap, shallow, and laughable. When the video crossed 67K views, she messaged him a link, not to apologize, but to celebrate how fast it was blowing up. She called it strategic content, saying that viewers loved relationship drama and rating videos. Ethan tried to tell her how humiliating it felt, how it exposed their private moments, how it turned him into a prop for strangers to mock. But she brushed it off, telling him he was being too sensitive. You're part of the story, she said with a smile. People love when there's a character they can react to. He didn't want to be a character. He didn't want their life dissected by people who didn't know them. But Chloe kept posting follow-up clips, stitching comments, riding the algorithm as the view count climbed past 100K, then 150K, then 200K. She exaggerated prices, claimed he bought things on sale, implied he lacked taste. Whenever someone called her ungrateful, she played it off as satire, insisting the gifts weren't her style and she was just being honest. Ethan realized the real sting wasn't in the words themselves, but in her excitement. The way she grinned at the notifications. The way she checked her analytics while he sat silently beside her. The way she cared more about the engagement spike than about his feelings. For the first time, he saw the version of Chloe the internet had shaped, sharp, performative, hungry for attention. And he saw how little space there was for him in that world, unless he played the role she had written for him. The role of the embarrassing boyfriend. The prop. The punchline. In that moment, Ethan understood the truth he had been avoiding. The video wasn't an accident, wasn't a misunderstanding, wasn't a joke taken too far. It was who she had become. And the world was applauding her for it. Ethan sat in his apartment with the curtains half drawn, surrounded by a quiet that felt heavier than usual. The comments from Chloe's videos kept replaying in his mind. Not because he cared what strangers thought, but because he finally understood how little she valued him. He opened a notebook, took a deep breath, and began listing everything he had given her over the past 2 years. Dates, trips, gifts, holidays, anniversaries. Line after line filled the page. Next to each item, he wrote the exact price, checking old receipts and scrolling through bank statements to make sure everything was accurate. By the time he finished, the total stared back at him, $6,847. He looked at that number for a long moment, not with pride or resentment, but with clarity. He flipped the page and made a second list. This time, the list was much shorter. Chloe had given him a novelty keychain, a mug from an office giveaway, a half-burned candle from a clearance aisle, and a t-shirt 2 sizes too small. Altogether, they barely added up to $31. And even those few items felt like afterthoughts rather than gestures. Ethan gathered everything she had ever given him, placing each item gently into a box. He printed out the spreadsheet he had made, neatly lined and formatted, something factual and unarguable. There was no anger in his movements, only a quiet resolve. He knew Chloe wouldn't understand the weight of what she had done, not while she was still chasing views. But her mother might. Mrs. Brooks had always been kind to him, always warm and sincere in a way Chloe rarely was. So that afternoon, Ethan drove to her house, the box resting on the passenger seat like a symbol of the imbalance he could no longer ignore. When Mrs. Brooks opened the door, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Ethan handed her the box and the printed pages. "I wanted you to have this," he said softly. "She's been saying things online that aren't true." Mrs. Brooks invited him inside and looked through the papers, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to heartbreak. She examined each item in the box, recognizing some of them, frowning at others. When she finally spoke, her voice was trembling. "I don't know why she's doing this to you," she said. "She didn't tell me anything." Ethan didn't try to explain further. The proof was right there in her hands. Mrs. Brooks apologized repeatedly, even though none of it was her fault. She told him he deserved better, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan believed it. Before leaving, he asked her for one thing, just to talk to Chloe, not to defend him, but to remind her of the person she used to be. When he walked back to his car, he felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but no longer carrying the burden alone. He didn't know how Chloe would react or what she would post next. But he knew he had taken the first step toward reclaiming his dignity. And he was ready for whatever came next. Ethan never planned to make a TikTok account, but one night, as he sat staring at the ceiling, he realized silence was only helping Chloe shape the narrative. He created an account using his first name and a simple profile photo. Nothing curated, nothing polished. Then he recorded a single video in his living room, the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the background. He didn't raise his voice or insult her. Instead, he calmly laid out the facts. He showed the spreadsheet of every gift he had given her. He held up receipts, screenshots, and confirmation emails. He explained the context behind each item she had mocked. And he did it all without bitterness, which somehow made his words land even harder. When he posted it, he expected maybe a few hundred views. But within hours, the comments exploded. People were stunned by the contrast between his tone and Chloe's cruelty. Users stitched his video, praising him for being respectful and transparent. Others dug up the original clips Chloe posted and began comparing the details. The story spread faster than either of them could have imagined. Chloe tried to ignore it at first, brushing it off as haters misinterpreting her content. But when Ethan's video passed 200K views, she posted a shaky, overly dramatic apology video, blaming stress, burnout, and miscommunication. The internet wasn't buying it. Someone found her Poshmark account, matching timestamps and photos of designer pieces Ethan had gifted her. Every item listed for sale, some already sold. The comments erupted. People screen recorded everything before she could delete it. Accusations filled her notifications, drowning out the praise she once enjoyed. She posted another video insisting it was all a misunderstanding, claiming the items were duplicates or things she didn't actually need. But then, in a twist no one expected, Mrs. Brooks left a public comment under Ethan's video. It was short but devastating. "Everything Ethan said is true. I'm very disappointed." The internet froze for a moment before the comments spread across every platform. From that point on, Chloe's attempts to defend herself were pointless. Comment sections turned hostile, viewers dissected every past video of hers, and creators made deep dives into her behavior. Some people even dug up old live streams where she mocked customers at her job or belittled coworkers for not understanding social media culture. The more they uncovered, the worse she looked. Ethan watched it all unfold with a numb heaviness, not celebrating, not gloating, just finally realizing how long he had ignored the red flags. He didn't make any more videos after the first one. He didn't need to. The truth had momentum of its own now. For the first time since the breakup began, Ethan felt the weight shift off his shoulders and back onto the person who had created the chaos. He didn't know what Chloe would do next, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The world finally understood his side of the story. Chloe vanished from TikTok for almost a full day, which for her felt like an eternity. When she returned, she posted a 3-part series filmed in dim lighting, her voice trembling as she claimed she had been financially manipulated and emotionally drained throughout the relationship. She painted herself as the victim, insisting that Ethan controlled her spending and used money to keep her dependent. The videos were dramatic, filled with long pauses and shaky breathing, but viewers weren't convinced anymore. The shift in public opinion was already too strong. People pointed out inconsistencies in her timeline, the cheerful posts she'd made during the relationship, and how her claims didn't align with the evidence Ethan had shared. But the breaking point came from someone no one expected, her roommate Harper. Harper had lived with Chloe for almost a year, quietly tolerating the constant filming, the piles of PR packages, and the endless rehearsing of scripted stories. Fed up with Chloe's lies, Harper uploaded a series of Ring camera clips, 47 in total, showing Chloe bragging about how Ethan paid for everything. Chloe laughed about never needing to buy groceries, joked about reselling his gifts, and even bragged about using him as content fuel. The footage spread like wildfire. Creators reacted to it, commentators stitched it, and viewers shared it with captions like, "This explains everything," and "She exposed herself." Chloe tried to claim the footage was edited, but Harper followed up with timestamps, uncut videos, and screenshots of conversations where Chloe bragged about manipulating men for gifts. Then came the next blow. Someone on TikTok recognized Chloe from an unresolved Poshmark scandal. A few creators dug deeper and found out she had scammed multiple buyers for a total of $3,400, selling counterfeit items and never shipping what she promised. A public record search revealed she had been taken to small claims court over it. The internet turned on her instantly. Her follower count plummeted from 15,000 to under 4,000 within days. Brands quietly unfollowed her, and the PR packages stopped arriving. She attempted a rebrand, posting yoga clips, cooking tutorials, and even a teary apology, but nothing stuck. Every comment section was filled with people calling out her lies, linking evidence, or simply laughing at the rapid downfall. By the end of the week, she was barely holding on to 127 followers, and most of them were only there to watch the collapse. Chloe spent hours deleting negative comments, blocking users, and desperately trying to spin a new narrative, but the internet had already decided. She wasn't the quirky influencer who rated gifts anymore. She was the girl who humiliated her boyfriend, lied for attention, scammed strangers, and got exposed by her own roommate. Her entire online persona had unraveled thread by thread, leaving nothing behind but a cautionary tale. Ethan didn't celebrate. He didn't post updates or clap back. He simply watched from a distance, realizing that everything Chloe was losing had never truly belonged to her. And for the first time since the chaos began, he felt completely free. Chloe's life unraveled faster than she could patch it back together. After the backlash reached its peak, her landlord contacted her with a cold, formal message reminding her that her name wasn't on the lease, and that the complaints about constant filming and noise had become impossible to ignore. She packed her things in hurried, frantic motions, filming herself crying between boxes as if it might spark sympathy. But the videos barely got a dozen views, and most of the comments mocked her for still trying to turn her misery into content. When she tried confronting Harper before leaving, Harper simply shut the door in her face, refusing to engage in another staged moment. Chloe dragged her suitcases down the stairs alone, realizing that she had no backup plan, no stable job, and almost no one left willing to help her. The silence was louder than the hate comments. She tried to rebuild quickly by posting what she called her new chapter, showing off a supposed upgrade in her dating life. She introduced Tyler, a tall, confident guy who appeared in her videos for only a few seconds before dodging the camera. Chloe claimed he worked in finance, drove a luxury car, and gifted her a Rolex. For a day or two, a tiny corner of the internet felt curious, wondering if she had actually managed to bounce back. But the truth surfaced almost immediately. Someone recognized Tyler from a local steakhouse where he worked as a server, and another viewer pointed out that the car he posed with belonged to his father. A watch collector exposed the Rolex as an obvious counterfeit, the kind sold for $50 at flea markets. Threads formed, comments piled up, and once again Chloe became a punchline. Within 4 days, Tyler ended things with her, refusing to be dragged into the chaos she created. He blocked her on everything, and Chloe posted a vague, passive-aggressive story implying he was afraid of strong women. Nobody believed her. Without Tyler, without followers, without a place to stay, Chloe's world shrank to a small, cluttered room at her cousin's house where she slept on an air mattress. Her creativity dried up, and even she seemed tired of hearing her own voice on camera. Meanwhile, Ethan stepped into the quiet calm he had been craving for months. He woke up earlier, cooked breakfast for himself, and started rediscovering hobbies he had abandoned during the relationship. He saved more money than he expected now that he wasn't constantly trying to impress someone who never appreciated it. He planned a trip to Japan, something he had always wanted but never did because Chloe complained international travel was too much effort unless it was sponsored. He spent time with Harper, who had become an unexpected friend, and they shared long conversations about boundaries, self-worth, and the strange pressure of living near someone obsessed with virality. Eventually, Ethan went on his first date since the breakup, with someone who didn't even have a TikTok account. The simplicity of it felt refreshing, almost unbelievable. Not everything was perfect, but everything was peaceful. He adopted a small rescue cat with big green eyes and named him Subway after finding him near a station on a rainy evening. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt like his life belonged entirely to him. And as Chloe posted one final apology video that garnered only 3 views before she deleted it, Ethan closed his phone, exhaled, and walked forward without looking back. Ethan eventually learned to appreciate the stillness that came after the chaos. He stopped checking Chloe's pages, stopped wondering what new story she might invent, and allowed himself to focus on the small, gentle things that made his days feel whole again. Morning coffee on his balcony, long walks without anyone filming, quiet dinners where conversations didn't have to be rehearsed. Japan became a turning point for him, a reminder that the world was bigger than mistakes and heartbreak. He wandered through temples, tried foods he couldn't pronounce, and found comfort in the unfamiliar. Returning home felt like starting over with clearer eyes and a lighter heart. Subway curled up beside him each night, a tiny reminder that unconditional affection didn't need an audience. He stayed close friends with Harper, grateful for the honesty she brought into his life. And on a calm Sunday afternoon, he realized something important. The story with Chloe had ended long before the internet noticed. It ended the moment he believed someone else's validation mattered more than his own peace. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And never date a person who sees your relationship as content.